So, for those of you that don't know, on this channel, when I get tired of talking about an artist, mainly because it makes me feel repetitive and they just give me nothing new to talk about, so in my head I'm just like, why continue talking about them? I'm retiring them from this channel. Now, when I say retire, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like they're fully gonna go away. If they do truly make an album that piques my interest back up or just makes me want to talk about them again because it's something different, then sure, you can always unretire. Sports athletes do it all the time. But I want to go through basically who I have retired on this channel because, I mean, it's not necessarily a whole lot. People are making it out like I've just thrown that out there, but no, not really. I mean, yeah, you're going to see two genres on here, but there's an abundance of music out there, so me retiring like 4 or 5 artists and like 2 whole genres when there's a plenty out there isn't really the end of the world, and I still have plenty to talk about because new music comes out every day and something different usually comes up every year at some point. So music is interesting in that way. Plus, I'm also going to give you 5 artists that may be on the retired list very soon for different reasons. But yes, these are ones that I do currently have retired from this channel. The first one is Maroon 5. Now, I know what you're thinking, but since you reviewed Jordy, you've made a couple videos about them afterwards. Yes, those were to get those videos out of the way, and the last time you will hear me talk about them is on the worst albums of 2021 list. Spoiler alert, that is the last time you will hear me talk about them. Next time they release a single, I'll listen to it, but I'm not going to care to review it because in the end, I just don't really want to waste my time with it that much. Again, unless they somehow pique my interest, because I used to be a fan of their old stuff. Whatever they're doing now, I have no idea what the hell they're doing, but it's just been plain the past 2 records. They've given me nothing to talk about. It's just the same thing. Maroon 5 selling out, getting a cover to stay relevant in this day and age when really their new album is doing worse than their albums of the past, despite this album being 4 years in the making. Like, it just, the downfall of them is sad. It's really sad, and unless they wow me with upcoming releases, I just will have no interest to go out of my way to listen to them, to talk about them in any shape or form on this channel. Next is Justin Bieber, Mr. Worst Album of the Year last year in 2020 with his album Changes, and this year his album Justice also got a 0. Now again, with my new rule put in place for this year, the worst album of the year being a disappointing album, not necessarily the worst thing, Justin Bieber will not win in back-to-back years. Will he be on the list? Again, probably sure. That'll probably be the last time you hear me talk about him. But I think it's just the same as Maroon 5. With Justin's last couple of records, he just hasn't done anything to change it up. He was so desperate for Yummy to be #1, and it's funny how for how much he teased that, for how many remakes he made, and for however many pictures of babies with the caption Yummy he put on there. I don't know what that was, but that happened. Yummy still did not hit #1, so that's just hilarious to me that he did all that work, and yet nothing. I mean, yeah, sure, it charted high, but it never got to #1 like he wanted. And the fact that he's still trying to play off this, I'm not a pop artist, I'm an R&B artist. Newsflash, Justin, R&B is a form of pop, so yes, even though there is an R&B category at the Grammys, it can still get put in with the pop genre because R&B is a form of pop. The Weeknd would have been in a pop category over the R&B category. Nobody can argue with me about this. But yeah, Justin Bieber, I think early on, it was, nobody really gave a fuck with Justin Bieber because he was a younger kid. So of course people are gonna, go out of their way to make fun of him. But now that he's more adult and whatever, and he thinks that he's making this new music that we've never heard before, it's like, no, we've heard this 100 times over, sometimes done better, and you're just becoming too desperate at this point, and it's really leaving you stale and giving me nothing new to talk about. Next is Tekashi 6ix9ine. I don't know if it was obvious because I mentioned him in a couple videos and even reviewed his past album, but since that record, I've just been done. Like, I think it's to the point where I know, and everybody else knows, he's only doing his music career now because he knows he's a meme. Like, he's playing it very well, I'll give him that. But it's just annoying as hell, and if I keep covering every stupid little song that he makes, then he wins, because it's the whole point of him doing songs like that is to gain the attention. Now, granted, his last album didn't do that well. I mean, he got so desperate to the point where he broke his house arrest and was out on the streets just handing his albums out for free, like that was going to help in album sales. Tekashi, if you're giving something away for free and you're trying to boost sales, it's not going to help, because there's no sale happening. You're just handing it out, but, you know, whatever, he's too stupid to know that. And yes, it's not about the criminal thing that went down, his time in jail, it's more of just about the music, and it really hasn't improved. Even post or pre-jail, Tekashi 6ix9ine just wasn't interesting to begin with. Okay, maybe at first you're like, oh, this shouting thing mixed with this rap is interesting, but then it just got annoying after a while, and he knew what he became, and it's like, I don't think I have to sit here and tell you that he's just another stupid meme that the music community made. Like, we all know this at this point, so I'm just gonna let him die off like every meme does without even mentioning his name anymore, because, again, I don't need to tell you that he is a dead meme at this point. The last two are the genres. The first genre is EDM music. I'm a fan of some of it, but for the most part, again, I just never find anything too interesting to go out of my way to make a video about it or review it. Like, a lot of the EDM records that I have reviewed on this channel, it's just the same rehashed drop every single time with a little spin put on it, but not much. And again, it doesn't bring that much to the table. Most of the time it's just DJs make this thing up, they bring in a featured artist, and the featured artist either does a good job or they don't, and most of the time they don't, and they just overbloat their albums with 20 plus songs that really EDM albums don't need. Like, why can't EDM artists just make a standard record that's like 10 to 12 tracks long? Like, at least Skrillex didn't fucking like give his album like 30 songs. He at least knew to stop after 12 or 13, but again, and he's evolved his music. I've actually heard his newer stuff. He's evolved it over the years, so a lot of EDM artists can't do that. It's just like, oh, let's do this little, can you even call it synth beat at this? Like, it's not even a synth beat, it's just your typical like robotic, like boom boom, like all that kind of stuff, and it just gets annoying. It's just made to pander to that mainstream crowd, and again, it leaves it bland and gives me nothing really to talk about. And anybody would agree with me that, you know, anything I say, they would have already heard, so there's just no point. And the first thing on this channel that I probably retired, probably back in 2018, late 2018, which was my first full year of doing reviews, might I add. I started doing it toward the end of 2017, but 2018 was like the first year that I fully invested in doing album reviews, and I mean, I gotta tell you, it was like, there's a reason when I did those so-called country album reviews that it was just some skit put in place to tell you how I really feel, because there was not a lot for me to talk about. I'm sorry, but when it comes to country music, who the hell am I listening? Like, how am I supposed to know who I'm listening to? All the voices sound exactly the fucking same. Like, people complain about this in rap, especially with like mumble rap and trap rap, but some of them have a unique sound that separate them from the others, and you can tell the difference. In country music, I have no clue. It's like when I'm at work and we get the guys who listen to country, they put that on the radio. It just seems like one long country song, just let's fucking carry it on for 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on how long I'm at work. Like, I can never tell the difference, whether it's Blake Shelton, Luke Bryan, Blake Shelton 2, Blake Shelton 3. Like, I can never tell the difference anymore. And yeah, okay, maybe I did give Morgan Wallen his new album a little bit of a review, and albums that I forgot to review or just didn't have time to review overall. So I guess you can say that counts. Is country music's retirement broken? And the answer to that is no. I just think people were asking me about that because it came after the whole N-word situation, and I wanted to give my whole thoughts on the album in itself, minus what took place with him just a month or so beforehand, or it might have been a couple weeks beforehand. The only country artist I can say at least new that I listened to is Chris Stapleton, because at least he brings new shit to the table. He also can bring blues and, you know, some sort of like rock in his sound. Like, it's definitely different. I can tell the difference. I can tell when it's him. And old country music still does it for me too, but in the end, when it comes to new country, especially bro country, Do not even get me started on Bro Country. I just never want to sit down and listen because I know the result I'm going to get. Like, this isn't one of those genres that I can go in hoping I get wowed by something, because I never do, and I probably never will. Okay, so yeah, those are artists that are retired from the channel. These 5 could potentially be, and some of them may surprise you. Especially this first one, which is Weezer.
You serious?
I know. I'm seeing them live next month with Green Day and Fall Out Boy. I completely understand. I got their album hanging up on the wall here. I get it. I completely understand why you'd be surprised. They are 15 albums deep into their discography, and they are planning on having 4 albums out next year, one every 3 months to correspond with the seasons, which would bring them up to 19. And with their discography being so up and down, I'm not gonna lie, I'm always hesitant. I really am. And when there's just one of their albums or songs that just doesn't get to me, then I just don't feel like talking about it. Like, I get it, like, I'm gonna sit here and say they need to take more time in between. Like, I'm not saying, like, go on hiatus every time. I'm just saying, like, can we, instead of getting an album every year or multiple in a year, can we get, like, one every 3 years? Like, set a pattern for yourself here. Like, I understand you have a lot on the table that you want to get out there, but set a pattern for yourself, like a lot of bands do, because they've already released 2 albums this year, 4 next year. That's going to be 6 in a 2-year span. Now, I know, I do understand, because you're like, didn't they take 2 years off between Black and their 2 albums that they released this year? Yes, but do we not forget that Van Weezer was supposed to come out May of last year before COVID hit and pushed that back. So they were already planning on continuing the streak of, let's release an album, let's release an album. And it's just, at this point, it's like, ever since they came back in 2014 after 4 years off, they brought that fantastic album, Everything Will Be Alright in the End. They have released an album every year but 3 years. 2015, 2018, and 2020. Like, I'm just, it's not that I'm so over Weezer, it's just that if there's genuinely projects of theirs that I do not like, I'm just not going to be able to see myself talking about it. And yes, I get it, it can seem a little biased that I only want to talk about the good stuff, but in the end there's other stuff that I want to talk about, so if Weezer's putting out a bad album that I don't like, I really don't want to cover it. And to be honest with you, I could, after next year with those 4 album releases, I could just say they're retired. They could come back, like I said again, but at this point I'm about getting done with them to a point where it's just like I'm not really enjoying listening to them that much, but I gotta see them in concert next month, so I'll give it till then, and I'll even give it till next year when these 4 albums come out. After that, I will see if I make the decision clear for myself, but it's getting there. Next is Greta Van Fleet. Pretty self-explanatory. They're 2 albums into their career, and even though they tried to switch it up a bit, they went from being called the Led Zeppelin ripoff to now just more bland alt-rock that, again, just brings nothing new to the table, and I still don't understand how people enjoy the lead singer's voice. Like, it's Robert Plant, but if Robert Plant were going through puberty, like, I don't know, it's just never been that great to me. And not to say I hate Greta Van Fleet, there's songs of theirs that I do enjoy and I do like, but for the most part, their albums just, again, keep giving me nothing to talk about, and I don't want to necessarily retire them 2 albums deep. I said it in the review. I'll give them 1 more album, and if they don't exactly wow me with this next album, then that'll have to be it until they actually do, because it's just one of those things where until they do something interesting and not bland, then I can't really talk about them. Third is Panic at the Disco. Now, I mean, granted, he's on a hiatus himself because of all the false accusations that he had to deal with, and I get it, but he's due to put an album out soon, Brendan Urie I'm talking about, and the last 2 records, I mean, I like Death of a Bachelor, but let's be honest, Death of a Bachelor and Pray for the Wicked are kind of similar to each other, whereas Pray for the Wicked was kind of like more, I like to call it the musical album, and again, it just seems like Panic at the Disco continues to go more, like they're going the direction of Maroon 5. You know, you look at the first, you can technically call it sellout album for Panic at the Disco, Death of a Bachelor. There's still some enjoyable stuff on there, but now that we're getting to like Pray for the Wicked, which I guess you can say is more their like Red Pill Blues type album. I'm not saying sound-wise, just saying in general, where people are starting to see that this is getting more bland with each release, and it could get to a point where I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. They have this formula now. There's no other way of explaining it at this point in time, and anytime somebody watches, they're just going to get annoyed because I'm going to keep repeating myself over and over and over again. Here's, well, not necessarily the last surprise, but I don't know how much of a surprise this would be, but Linkin Park. It's not because I hate them or whatever, and it's not because of their last album. It's just, I ever since Chester Bennington's death, me talking about them has become so scarce because listening to their music's gotten harder for me. It's not that I don't go back and listen, but I just don't listen as often as I did and whatnot. And, you know, I still enjoy the solo stuff that Mike Shinoda is doing, so I'll still listen to that. But as for Linkin Park, they just aren't a band that I want to talk about anymore, just because it makes me upset and sad knowing that we may never get to hear new material from them in general. So when I mean retiring this band, I mean like in a good way. Like, I'm not saying like it ended on bad terms or anything. I'm just saying like I think at this point it would just be disrespectful for them to go on without Chester, and I think that anything past or anything post Chester, if they do release something, just wouldn't be the same. And I just don't know, like, I would listen to it, but I'd still be very hesitant to be like, I don't know, it feels dirty. But, you know, that's my main reason for this. Again, it's not that they put me in like this like anger of oh my god, the last album just made me like, no, I think the last album was fine in its own right. It's just circumstances that have gone down. It's just hard for me now. And lastly is Eminem. Sure, I think that Kamikaze and even Music to Be Murdered by A and B were definitely bigger steps up from Revival, but at this point, Eminem, I'm done with the fast-paced rapping dad jokes. Like, if that's all you've got at this point in your career, just you're done. That's all it is. Just retire. Happily retire. Become one of those touring artists. Like, we want to hear the hits when we go see you on tour, but I don't know, he just keeps pushing out these releases and surprise releasing them because I'm Eminem, I can do it because it'll still hit #1. At this point, I'm just over it. Like, I really, really am. Like, sure, I may go and check out his next album whenever that is. We never know at this point. It's probably just going to be just dropped on us again without any warning. But, you know, like I said, you can only take so much of, like, the stupid little dad jokes that he's doing. And the angry old man rap is what they call it now that he's doing. It is definitely getting annoying. Like, I can see where people are like, oh my god, stop it. Can you just rap normally like you did back then? Like, no problem there at all. But yeah, I don't know. It's like he's back and forth between I want to shock people to I want to be serious, and it's just leading him to be inconsistent at this point. So yeah, there you go. Maybe now you have more of an understanding as to why I retire artists and who is basically retired from this channel. But yeah, the people on the list who I may retire, that doesn't mean I'm going to retire them. It just means that if they don't step up and do something that is, you know, interesting enough, and I can't, you know, like I said, just I stop being repetitive with them, then, you know, obviously I won't retire them. But some of them are just, they're like right here. It's like, I can only take so much more before I'm just like, alright, I need something different, or I need to listen to something different. I can't keep torturing myself with this. So hopefully you guys get a more of an understanding here, and that's basically it for me. So yeah, have a great day, stay safe, and I will catch you all in the next one.